Let's Podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies, and we're brought to you by Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. I feel like David Hale needs to listen to the podcast more. He's been a guest on this podcast. Shout out to David Hale from ESPN. He is a friend of the show. And he had tweeted out, or at some point last night, I guess he was watching Office Space or something. And he says, Office Space came out in 1999, and here we are 24 years later, and printer copier technology is not even a tiny bit better. That scene is very bit as relevant today. And I simply retweeted Hale by saying, may I interest you in our presenting sponsor, copiers-plus.com, and you'll know that it's not the case. I got my Kyocera at home. Works like a champ. And there's a human local that you can contact if you have any issues. That's the beauty of Copiers Plus. So again, thanks to them for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. Again, check them out at copiers-plus.com. Fair bit of warning. Today's show is going to start serious and then end with somebody pooping their pants. Now, I'm not going to do that. Giglio's not going to do that. But we're going to talk about it because there was another video podcaster that had a moment that's gone viral that we're going to investigate. So that's kind of the range of the show from time to time. And the reason why we start on a serious note is because there was a lockdown yesterday on UNC's campus. A faculty member was killed by an armed person, a gunman, who they eventually caught and was in custody. And this had repercussions from a variety of different points of view. There is the fact that UNC is still canceled classes today. There's video of students having to jump out of the second story of buildings to avoid all this. You also had the first day of traditional school yesterday. I know you sent your high schooler off. I sent my kids, high schooler and middle schooler, off. But in the Chapel Hill area, they had to lock everything down and delay pickup because of what was going on in Chapel Hill. And this, obviously, there's a sports angle to this as well, because the ACC, according to various reports, whether it was from Nicole Auerbach or Ross Dellinger or Pete Thamel, they were supposed to vote on ACC expansion, the additions of Cal, Stanford, and SMU. Kevin Guskowitz, the chancellor at UNC, obviously is not going to be taking that meeting when there's a tragedy taking place on campus. And I'm almost numb to these conversations, Joe, and everybody's affected by this personally in different ways. We know a lot of people on that campus. We know people who have kids on that campus, and I'm numb to it. And I feel like our generation of kids coming up is also numb to it, because let's think about all the things that they've lived through. You and I lived through Cold War stuff where you had to do the duck and cover from time to time. And the scariest thing that happened at school was you'd watch Red Dawn and you thought Russians were going to invade you. Okay. The threat that our kids face is very, very real on a daily basis. And moments like that make me wonder, when I drop my kid off at school, is that going to happen? And that's no way to live, man. That's just no way to live. And I'm shocked. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be shocked anymore because it's been going on for so long. I'm shocked that we allow ourselves to live this way when the solutions are there. And to quote the Onion article that gets repurposed every time something like this happens, there's no way to stop this, says the country where it routinely happens. So it's numbing, it's upsetting, and man, I'm tired of it.
What's crazy is how helpless you are in this situation. So Cal, one of our interns, so I know Cal through his brother Luke. Luke is a freshman at UNC. So yesterday, unfortunately, I was in the emergency room. My wife fell. She is okay. But we had to go to the emergency room. She needed an x-ray. She needed to get her back checked out. So our son, James, who's at ECU, just started this, a week ago, is texting Jessica, and then he's texting me, and he says, Luke is in lockdown. He is scared. He doesn't know what to do. And I'm sitting here going, not knowing what's going on, right? Because
you're out of pocket.
I'm not understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
And then now I'm getting some texts, and I'm like, okay. Now I'm trying to catch up. Jessica's trying to catch up too with what's going on. And you sit there as a parent and you think to yourself, well, like you said, is today going to be the day? And you think about, well, what would I do in that situation? And so Luke was at the student center. Is my understanding that the lab where this disgruntled student opened fire,
grad student,
was close by. So Luke was hiding in a bathroom at the student center. So now think about that. Think about all the steps there that are involved.
Yeah.
And you think about what's crazy is I'm gonna say this in the crassest way possible.
Okay.
We talk about Super Bowls with Aaron Rodgers and we go, he only won one, right? We're gonna look at this shooting and go, only one person died.
I understand what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying.
And it's become, to your point about how we've calloused over since Columbine, right? We've calloused as a society over. We've had elementary school shootings. So we're going to look at Chapel Hill with the Muslim shootings, right? We've calloused over. And what hits home to me too is I remember in 2018, the Parkland shooting down in Florida.
Yeah.
Kid I grew up with, his son was at the high school at that time. And I just remember thinking to myself, what would you do? How do you handle that? And I thought Andrew Carter from the NewsObserver had a insightful tweet when he says, we always love to say, never forget. And yet we always forget.
Always do.
You know, it's kind of nature. It's kind of how the world works. But that's my fear with this instance is the people who live through that, the people like Luke who are hiding in a bathroom who don't know what to do. And the people like James who are sitting there going, well, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Now, there are some apps that you can download that they've come up with emergency situations, at least that your parents can track you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still,
it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's at least something.
But you still feel helpless because you're not there.
Correct. And you also feel helpless because, you know, quite frankly, you're talking about someone with a gun who you're at the mercy of that person with the gun. So without getting into all of the usual problems that all of this presents, I would just say to you, this is the only way I think we can solve any of this. There's someone in your life that you love. And I'm again, not going to take any stance on your gun ownership or gun usage. I would just say to you, tell the person that you're raising, tell the person that you love, tell the person that you interact that guns will not solve your problems. This is like throwing the starfish back into the sea. I get all of that.
Yeah.
But at least we can throw the starfish back and save one of the starfish, because in my opinion, that is the only way to help any of this is at a very, very micro level to try to help somebody and say, why are you choosing to use a gun to solve your problem? That's not going to solve your problems. Killing someone is not going to solve your problems, no matter the circumstance. So that's what I would say about this. Yesterday was obviously very difficult on a lot of different levels. And I feel for Luke and Cal and the Toscano family. I feel for obviously all of the people in Chapel Hill who are going to have to deal with all that. And obviously you feel for everyone and you realize just really how precious all of this stuff is. Like, yeah. And again, the fear there.
It's the fear. And then there's the frustration, because when you do start to pay attention to the news and you see what people who are put in position to make change are focusing on rather than actual matters, especially when it comes to kids. I mean, for heaven's sake, I know I'm speaking to a lot of parents who are frustrated by, why don't we have enough bus drivers? Those types of things.
Sure.
Why don't we have enough supplies in schools? Those types of things. Why in the world do we have it so that like kids don't get free lunches, for heaven's sake? I mean, these are all things that, you know, we say we want to take care of the kids and yada, yada, yada. Hey man, there's a lot of things you can do to help the kids that you aren't actually doing. And I'll just leave it at that. So I just want to, you know, look, this is something that affects us personally. It affects everybody. And again, it creeps into what we do as well when it comes to this podcast. So just wanted to get that off the bat, and we'll now return to your regularly scheduled stupidity that we do on this podcast. All right. So speaking of North Carolina, they've got a big game on Saturday night against South Carolina. Mack Brown is looking for win number 100, Joe, at UNC. I was kind of amused and also flabbergasted by a stat that our friend Chris over at Daggum Box Scores had put out in his latest newsletter. I highly recommend, if you haven't yet, go check out Bless Your Chart. It's a wonderful Substack that gives you all sorts of numerical tidbits and charts and everything else. And Chris points out that it took Mack Brown 9 seasons, 124 games, to reach 100 victories at Texas. It will take 16 seasons scattered over 35 years to do it at UNC. And he put it on a wonderful chart where you had Mack Brown 1.0 from 1988 to 1997 with a 69, 46-1 record, and where he's at Mack Brown 2.0, where he's 30-22 since he got back here in 2019. Meanwhile, at Texas from 1998 through 2013, a final record of 158, 48, and a 2005 national championship. So there's a lot of different ways to interpret this from what I saw in Chris's chart. And it shows you how fleeting things can be at elite level programs like Texas that has been trying to get back to that. Even Mack was trying to get back to that towards the end of his run at Texas. And at North Carolina, it speaks to something that you and I have talked about because we've been here for so freaking long. You know, I've been here since 95. You got here in what, 91, 92. And it's like, wait, when did you get here? Was it
93?
93. Fall 93. My bad. I aged you a little bit prematurely. But, you know, we can sit here and I can scream that the North Carolina NC State rivalry is our rivalry. It's the area's rivalry. And there's a lot of things, a lot of threads you can pull on. But when you take a step back, you realize these are just two historically 500 programs. And here you have a Hall of Fame coach who's won a national championship come back to North Carolina and has done a ton of good in getting the recruiting back up and running. They're back on the national spotlight with two great quarterbacks, Sam Howell and Drake May, which I know Chris points this out in his newsletter, is kind of a feat unto itself because these guys were supposed to go other places. Yeah. But he brought these two top level
Florida State and Alabama
NFL type quarterbacks to UNC. And the results seem to be mixed, but I feel like it just is more illustrative of how NC State and North Carolina are always going to be really difficult places to win consistently.
Yeah, for different reasons. Obviously, you know, Carolina is, and there is an umbrella there that there aren't as many Division I ready players in the state of North Carolina as there are in Texas. Duh. Population, math, duh. But there's also more mouths to feed in this area. And then, of course, you have the Ohio States, Notre Dames, Penn States, Clemson's, Georgia's, Florida States, Florida's who come up and kind of randomly take the players that they want when they want
them. They want them, right?
Right. So that doesn't really happen in Texas unless it's like an LSU or an Alabama, right? So there's obvious difference there. It's kind of funny, though, that you mentioned that about Sam Howell and Drake May. Think about it. The reason it went sour at Texas for Mack Brown was he couldn't get the right quarterback. And there was a parade of players from the state of Texas who he couldn't get or didn't get or missed on or whatever, for whatever reasons, right? Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin.
Or mispositioned. So anyway.
Sure. So, but it's funny, ironic in the sense that the one thing he couldn't do at the end of Texas was get the right quarterback. And seemingly the one thing he's done right in his return at Carolina is get the right quarterback.
Yeah, so it is ironic.
But it just shows you like you're sitting here chasing something at Texas and you're like, man, if I get that one thing right, we'll be there.
We'll be good.
And then you get to Carolina and you're like, man, I got this one thing right. And then maybe your offensive line isn't right. Maybe your defensive line
has been the problem.
Maybe your defensive secondary isn't great. You know, so it just kind of goes to show you how fickle all of this is. But to your point about what we've seen with Dave Doran of late and what we've seen with Mack, when they win 8 or 9 games, that's above their average.
It should be celebrated.
And if they get to that 10-win mark, well, that just doesn't happen very often.
Yes. So speaking of wins, we had a couple suggestions from people that our next t-shirt, I guess the next t-shirt from the next t-shirt is related to, you know, good teams win, great teams cover.
I like it.
Maybe that's what we got to do for the next t-shirt. But yeah, look, this is a very pivotal season for North Carolina and Mack Brown too. In
what sense?
I'm not alone in saying this. I know we talked about it with Luke DeCock last week, and we'll talk to Luke DeCock in a little bit about this expansion stuff that just won't go away. And that, do we know who the next quarterback is going to be? Can they go 3 in a row in this regard? Plus, I know people get really worked up about age, but the man is 72, and it all seems like it's been building towards this moment to really have a breakthrough season to really cash in. They've knocked on the door. They've gotten to the ACC championship game. Yeah. Okay. I'm not trying to diminish what Mack Brown's done, but I feel like you and I talked about this with NC State a bunch of times, and we talked about it with North Carolina a couple of years ago with Sam Howell. These are seasons and players that you go back and you go, man, we had Phillip Rivers for 4 years, and what'd you get for that? Man, we had Russell Wilson, and that ended
for 3.
You know, for the way that it ended. I feel like with Sam Howell and Drake May back to back, there's going to be this period of time. Then a few years, you're going to look back and go, man, where was this? And Saturday is crucial, man. I know Mack Brown doesn't like leading up to these things with this particular game, but if you're about that life, well, these are the games you got to win.
This is what I'm talking about with Carolina's schedule. I think their schedule's really hard this year.
Yeah.
And I think I just like last year with State's schedule was really easy last year and they didn't make the most of it. Mm-hmm. We can argue, till the cows come home about why they didn't. I think with Carolina, they were in a very similar window schedule wise, 2020, 2021, and 2019. And it just didn't happen for them. And that's difficult because sometimes it's your year and you don't know it's your year. And I don't think that's the case this year for Carolina. Seriously.
You don't think so?
Too much changeover on that defense. I think their defense will be better just because it has to be.
The ACC is different too.
But the league is different. Their schedule's hard. And I know people might look at it and go, oh, Minnesota or even South Carolina. I don't even think South Carolina is ranked. South Carolina's a good team. Mm-hmm. South Carolina ran them out of the gym the last time they saw them on the same field, by the way.
Yeah.
We've seen South Carolina in this game against Carolina, against State, and just show up and you're like, oh, they're not that good. They're the chickens. No, they come home to roost in a game like this. They show out in games like this. And then the Minnesota, that's a tough game, even though it's at home. You might go, oh, well, they don't play Florida State. So what?
Yeah.
All of the games, I look at their schedule and they play App State. I expect them to beat App State at home.
But that's a sneaky game, man.
But you want to talk about somebody's Super Bowl with someone who's coming into your building who's going to be amped to play you.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't look at their schedule and go, well, they got to lay up here. They got to lay up there. You can build a little bit of momentum. Look at Wake Forest's schedule this year. Wake Forest has one of those starts where we're going to turn around and Wake Forest is going to be 6-0 and we're going to be like, wow, nobody was talking about Wake Forest this year. Maybe this Mitch Griffiths is a lot better than we thought. I am telling you, mark my words right now. They're going to get off to a crazy start and we're going to be like, man, well, why wasn't anybody? Well, they lost Sam Hartman. How are they better? Well, I don't know. Because Notre Dame's going to run roughshod too. Yes. So I think those things kind of happen in our area and you look back at it and you go, man, it was your year. You just didn't know it.
So speaking of the ACC, I feel like we can do a quick segment on coaches that we want to like, but then say things that you go, for the record, we like Mack Brown. Dabo is somebody that I want to like.
Oh, I thought we were going to get to the part where I'm like, don't make me
we're going to get there. We're going to get there. This is like a segment within a segment where
because
coaches we want to like, but say things that make you go, coaches that you don't want to like, then say things and referencing The Onion again, worst person makes great point.
Yeah.
Right? So here's Dabo from Chapel Fowler on the radio show. Okay. Start with coaches you want to like, but I'm like, why, buddy?
I like Dabo.
Why? Dabo was like, why do you got to do this? So Chapel Fowler was listening to Dabo's radio show last night. And he says, Dabo's not the biggest fan of what he calls the 2 to 3 minute journey teams have to take to the opposing locker room at Duke's Wallace Wade Stadium. Quote, in college football, you barely have time to use the bathroom at halftime. We'll walk briskly. Now, poor Chapel, man. He's just tweeting out what Dabo says. Quote, tweet, quote, tweet, quote, tweet, quote, tweet of everybody showing the bus. Everybody showing ABC spending 30 minutes on the journey, the literal journey they take from their locker room to the hill so they can run down for 30 seconds or whatever it is.
School too, by the way.
It's like, wait a minute. You guys didn't build the locker room where you could just walk to the hill? Okay, got it. You don't want to build like a monorail? That'd be another engineering marvel to do. So anyway, Dabo's a guy who says things where you go, are you trolling? Are you self-aware? I have no idea. Now let's get to the worst person making a great point. This is
why are
Jim
you doing
Harbaugh.
This to me?
This is Jim Harbaugh who's getting ready. It's game week. They got the Pirates, and my guy starts opening. He just starts talking about, hey, we got to change the game when it comes to the NCAA players and who gets the money.
I continue to advocate for that today. A system of revenue sharing with the student athletes. I'm aware and understand that when someone speaks out in defense of those without a voice, attempts are made to diminish the individual's character and credibility. As a former player and current coach, mentoring many of these student athletes, what I want to do is be a voice for the student athletes. I want them to be treated with the respect and the dignity that they deserve. What I don't understand is how the NCAA, television networks, conferences, universities, and coaches can continue to pull in millions, and in some cases, billions of dollars in revenue off the efforts of college student athletes across the country without providing enough opportunity to share in the ever increasing revenues. When student athletes call it a game, corporate types call it a business.
So there's Jim Harbaugh, head coach, Michigan, and I can just see your pained face. Like, I don't like you, man. You always are pointing out Michigan's deficiencies. Yet here's Jim Harbaugh making some great points. Man. He's not alone in this, by the way, but still.
This is number 2 now that I have to give him credit for, because remember during the pandemic, he gave a bunch of money back to Michigan when he didn't have to. Yeah, the only issue here is the use of the offensive student athlete term. It's a legal fugazi term that was created by Walter Byers in order to skirt legal rules of employment.
Yeah.
Other than that, spot on, man. Spot on.
You're still pulling for the Pirates, though, right?
Yeah, man. Come on.
Okay.
Housekeeping.
You got that hoodie from Home Field.
This is a Home Field special.
You can buy an OG hoodie. You know that, right?
I have one of those.
And you have one of those as well. Just go to breakingtea.com/OG. It'll take you to the Ovies and Giglio collection. That's how you know it's the finest of materials. You can buy 4 items from us. We got 3 show shirts, and then we got a Cane shirt up there. But if you want to get a positive vibes only, it's there. Again, go to breakingtea.com/OG. T-shirts, V-necks, youth shirts. But I believe that children are our future. Put the shirt on and let them lead the way. And you can get the hoodies as well. Also, new podcast, Young Gun, episode 3, out today. Go check that out. Look up Young Gun. It's a Bryce Young podcast. Dimitri Ravanos and Lauren Brownlow wrapping up the preseason, what they've seen specifically from Bryce, and answering the most important question: was he too short? And other things as well. So go check that out. Also, want to thank our sponsors, Hometown Realty. Check them out online at myhtr.com. With Hometown Realty, they've got agents all across the area working for you. You like to say that Barry is no dummy. He knows how to make this thing work. So contact him. Check it out at myhtr.com.
Yeah, Barry Woodard. More than 250 agents, 6 locations. Just go to myhtr.com. There's a toggle in the middle of the screen. Could not be easier. Buy, sell. You know me. I like binary options, right? Don't make this complicated.
Don't do it.
Don't make it complicated on yourself. Protect the number 1 investment you have, which is your home, by going to myhtr.com.
Also, thanks to Whitaker and Hamer. WH.lawyer is the website. All sorts of legal services. You need somebody that can navigate these things for you. Don't be, and I hear this because Kelly's a lawyer, and every so often she'll lament, like, just because you were good at one particular thing doesn't mean you understand the law. You need experts. That's what Whitaker and Hamer, like, I'm not going to go caveman lawyer. If I actually tried to argue something, I would lose outside of a sports argument. Even if I do lose sports arguments, you don't want to lose legal arguments. Those are real things. So contact Whitaker and Hamer.
Yeah, whether you're closing on a house, selling a business, any kind of family law, check them out, wh.lawyer.
And also, we got all the G's covered. We've got Matt Davis, insuregarner.com or theoginsurance.com. You can give him a call as well, 919-779-8277. Talking to people locally, talking to actual humans is important. It's almost a lost skill. Matt Davis has that with your insurance needs.
Yeah, Matt's going to come see us on Thursday.
I'm excited about that.
Because he's
like a real person who's showing up.
That's a great billboard. You want to, what happens when you want to talk to an actual person? Well, go to theoginsurance.com. Matt Davis, State Farm, has also got some great financial advice for you as well.
All right, joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, it's an ACC Now Tuesday. It's Luke DeCock, News and Observer columnist. Luke, what's going on, man?
Hey, fellas, how are you?
We're good. We're good. So, Giglio and I addressed it earlier as it relates to what's going on in the non-sports world and how it crosses over into the sports world. And originally, we were going to talk today about ACC expansion because it looks like they were going to expand, or at least that's what the vote was supposed to take place last night. But because what happened in Chapel Hill, it's delayed that. But I feel like the buried story here when it comes to the ACC is really about Notre Dame. it's not necessarily about Cal, Stanford, SMU. It's about Notre Dame's role in all of this and what Notre Dame's future is going to be on a television, in a television sense. And I know you've been tweeting about it. I just feel like should be the thing that most people should be looking at, not Jim Phillips and the future of the ACC, but really, what's the future of Notre Dame in all of this?
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's pulled a Hyman Roth here. I think they've played this beautifully and double-crossed the ACC. From as you said, the call's coming from the inside. Hey, let's backtrack for a second. Joe, you were talking about the use of the term student athlete before the break. It's even worse than what you said. Walter Byers invented the term to get out of paying workers' comp to the family of a football player who died. That's where this all starts. That's how insidious this is. That was a made-up term just so they wouldn't have to pay workers' comp to the family of a dead football player. I think it was in Texas. Anyway, I think Notre Dame's played this beautifully. They've pushed the ACC to add 2 schools no one else wanted. They've created perfect conditions to say, hey, you know what? It's just not the league we were a part of. Jack Swarbrick's interview with Dan Patrick was a masterpiece in political positioning, basically setting the tone that the ACC is where their Olympic sports are, just like hockey's in the Big Ten. And we could change that at any time. I mean, that's just a convenient place to park these sports that aren't football. Never mind, his president was co-chair of the search committee that chose Jim Phillips as ACC commissioner. ACC it has given Notre Dame the cow. Notre Dame just wanted the milk. They handed over the cow. And now you've got Notre Dame with 20% of ACC revenue, 100% of a vote in all these discussions, including adding Stanford and Cal for football, when Notre Dame will never have to deal with the implications of that and gives 0 shits about the league. I mean, it's just an incredible combination of hubris. But I have to give Jack Swarbrick and Father Jenkins credit. They've manipulated the ACC. They've got sleeper agents all over the ACC who worked or went to Notre Dame. They've completely encircled the league. And look, we saw 2 years ago with college football expansion, when they tried to slide through that little plan, Swarbrick and Greg Sankey, that was going to benefit nobody more than the SEC and Notre Dame, because nobody knew at the time that the SEC was adding Texas and Oklahoma, except probably Jack Swarbrick, which is, he was getting his out of that deal. And now they're going to absolutely, I think this is a disaster for the ACC. I think it's a complete panic move. I think there's no rationale for it. If you go back and look at the other 2 big expansions, even Louisville, there were rational long-term goals and reasons why the ACC would do these things. Get to 12 teams, improve football, have a championship game, then add more markets, improve basketball, get the network. Even Louisville, all right, Maryland lost. What's the best we can do right now to stabilize the league, get Louisville, and get a grant of rights? Like, those were all things that made sense. They went together. This is, holy crap, everyone else is adding teams. What happens if we don't? Oh my God, if Florida State and Clemson leave, we won't have a league. If Carolina and State leave, they're literally adding schools in case other schools leave. That is the worst possible logic for doing this. And not to mention, these are 2 schools that the Big Ten and Big 12 and basically the rest of the Pac-12 said, they really don't do anything for us. Like, you're literally picking up the garbage and trying to tell people it's the shrimp cocktail from St. Elmo's. It's just, so much about this is so stupid and so short-sighted and panic-ridden. There's nobody in the room except apparently these 4 schools who have steadfastly voted against this until now. God bless Randy Woodson. And look, nobody's been more critical of Randy Woodson than me for his, flaccid handling of Mark Emmert on the NCAA's board of directors. I mean, just an absolute case study in terrible governance. But State's out there pushing back on this. Carolina's out there pushing back on this. And of course, Clemson and Florida State. If this is bad for the ACC, Clemson and Florida State would be for it.
Oh, of course. That's always been my argument. If Florida State really wanted to sink this thing, they would just be like, yeah, man, bring anybody you want to bring in. And then we just make the argument that you made the league worse. And then we'll try to argue our way in court out of the grant of rights. So who's going to flip? Who's flipping?
I mean, my guess is it's Carolina and State, because you don't think so, Joe? You got the other way around?
I think it's Clemson, because I think they're going to do the Money in the Bank cash in. They're going to give like $8 million to the football champion as a bonus. And I think Clemson's like, cool. Yeah, we're the ones who are going to win.
But you know what the problem is? No matter how you cook these performance numbers, and this is my favorite part of this, like Miami. If we have performance payments, we're going to do really well. You know who's going to do well? Duke and Wake. Because
Yeah.
you got to have something for Olympic sports. It's going to be Carolina and Duke and Wake, and Pittsburgh and Miami are going to come back to the table in 5 years complaining that they didn't get enough of this money, and even though it's their own fault. Here's my theory. Why stop at SMU, Cal, and Stanford? If you get a pro rata increase from ESPN for every team you add, and these teams are willing to not take that money, meaning you basically split it up among the rest of the league, add 20 teams. Then you've got, $300 million to give to Clemson and Florida State. Then you just keep going. Just grab everybody else. Grab South Florida. Grab Texas, San Antonio. Grab San Diego State. Lord knows they want to do it.
Yeah. Is this MLS, Luke? Like, can I get it?
It is. No, Joe, you're right. It's MLS is a perfect example. What the ACC is doing is a Ponzi scheme. You're just taking money and pushing it down the road with no idea of how you're going to grow. Not caring about the long-term We haven't even talked about how unbelievably bad this is going to be for the student. It's worse for the ACC than it is for the Big Ten. You're going to have kids flying from Boston College to Berkeley. I hate that.
Nobody cares about that. That's the problem. We talked about it with John Curry, the AD at Wake Forest last week.
Well, we play Cal and field hockey. No big deal.
No, it's no big deal. We do it already. Okay.
Whew.
Sure.
Hey, it's your bed, man.
You tell David Tepper, hey, give us $650 million and you get your own ACC team and you get to play at Bank of America Stadium all the time. Who says no?
I mean, is that basically Florida State's plan? Let's just get David Tepper to fund our athletic programs because he's so good at football. Hey, wouldn't that be the ultimate mashup of football savvy? The people who have mismanaged Florida State into the gutter, and the guy who thought he knew more about the NFL than Bill Belichick. Put them together. That's your private equity investment in Florida State.
So to sum up, the last round of expansion, which was Louisville, right? And Notre Dame, the 5/8 Notre Dame deal, was done to preserve the ACC. This round will be what kills the ACC.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, there's just no way around it. You're adding schools for the sake of adding schools. Like that's
only
literally what we're doing.
Adding three of the worst. Come on.
I'm going to push back on that. I think you can make a case, not in a different sort of window. I think you can make a case for SMU as if the ACC were going to expand westward, what schools make sense. I can see SMU in that conversation because they have money. They're willing to spend it. They have some football tradition, even if it's more like Louisville's than the rest of the ACC. There's some logic to that, but there's zero logic to Stanford and Cal other than a bunch of presidents went to Stanford and Cal. Notre Dame's like, hey, you know what? We wouldn't do this, but you guys should. I mean, that's a great idea for you. And the idea that everyone else is adding schools, if we don't, and Florida State and Clemson leave, we'll be out of luck. You know what happens if Florida State and Clemson and State and Carolina leave in 4 years? You add other schools. But you don't do it now with a gun to your head. It's terrible. Yeah, it's just pure panic.
This is the other part under the guise of being proactive when you're really just being reactive.
Reactionary
was out there, man. You could have had the Giglio IRA conference. You could have had App State, ECU, West Virginia, and man, I'm serious. Those are three programs that actually give two shits about football. Stanford, Cal, and SMU, get the hell out of here.
No, Stanford and Cal especially. I mean, even when Stanford was good in the sort of Harbaugh into David Shaw era, no one cared. I mean, Duke went out there and it was like a home game for Duke at the time. I'm not trying to ruffle anyone's feathers, but
all right. So let's before we get out of here, let's talk about actual football because, like, hey, week 1 is here and we have some important games. I feel like I should. Because we're talking about the ACC and we're already in a foul mood about the ACC, I feel like the question should be, what's the worst possible thing that could happen to the ACC this weekend?
Somebody sent me this, actually.
So, I'm not even looking at the Battle of Miami between Miami, Ohio, and the Hurricanes. UConn, NC State, who knows? That could be sneaky, whatever. Elon beating Wake would be pretty embarrassing.
That would be bad.
I think most ACC fans are rooting for LSU against Florida State, just to shut Florida State up.
We all need Florida State, though.
What do you think is the worst possible thing that can happen with the ACC this weekend?
I think South Carolina just absolutely smashing North Carolina. would be up there. I mean, a close win, fine, whatever. But if it's like 42-8 or something, and you're like, and Drake May gets Virginia Tech like Sam Howell, and then the Heisman campaign is over, you get smoked by a team that you probably should beat. You lose again in Charlotte. It's like the bowl game all over again. I think that's the worst case scenario because ACC needs UNC to be decent, and getting smoked by Shane Beamer in week 1 would not be it. Go ahead, Joe.
That's bad, Luke. I get that, but you're not thinking next level. Our friend Chip Patterson on the ball, thinking next level. Wouldn't it be from this is from Chip from the wouldn't it be hilarious principle? ACC adds Cal and Stanford this week. Cal loses at North Texas. Stanford loses at Hawaii. Yes. And yes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, you are. I'm not thinking enough into the future. I'm thinking too
and then they're going to take a dump in their pants because they're not good. They've never been good.
And they don't care. That's the thing.
No.
Like Stanford would much rather win a water polo title than go 6-6
and they
in
do.
football.
And
they do. No, I mean, that's not a joke. They would much rather hang a water polo banner than go to the Independence Bowl. Now, I would rather hang a water polo banner than go to the Independence Bowl. They would rather hang a water polo banner than go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I'll tell you that much. They would rather finish 5th in water polo than go to Charlotte for a bowl game.
What about water polo in Mayo? Now we're combining things.
Now you're thinking. Hey, I want to say before we go here, I want to add one more thing on the ACC stuff that a point I should have made. Then this is why it's another reason why this is such a huge error. The grant of rights buys you stability for at least another 6 to 7 years.
Yeah.
You bought yourself time. It's what no other conference has. Big Ten's going back to market in a couple of years. It may be dead. The Big Ten may be in big trouble when they go back to Fox. And Fox is like, guys, you know what? We spent a ton of money and everybody's cutting cords. And I don't know, we got 50 million per school, maybe 40. There's like the Pac-12 turned down $30 million. There's not, as Notre Dame is going to have a rude awakening as we've discussed. There's not a lot of money out there, not like it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So you bought yourself time to ride this out. I'm telling you, by 2030, the ACC's deal might look pretty good. Florida State might be saying, oh man, I can't believe we left the ACC for Conference USA that promised us $100 million a year of all of their revenue, because now the ACC's that 30 million, 35, 45 million the ACC's getting looks pretty good. So not only is it a huge mistake to do this, you are actually throwing away every single advantage you have over every other conference. So not only are you shooting yourself in the foot, then you're just kind of micturating down your leg as well to try to put it out.
All right, Luke. We'll talk to you next week, man.
Yeah, sorry. I rambled on. I'll see you guys.
Fired up, man. Have you had your coffee yet?
It's so dumb. Coffee I've had. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So dumb.
That. All right, man. We'll talk to you later. That's Luke DeCock, News and Observer, ACC Now columnist. So you talked about a dump in your pants, huh, Joe? We'll get to that. Before we get to that, though, we should thank our fine sponsors. We mentioned Giglio wearing that home field hoodie. You can get your home field hoodie right now. All you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code OG23, and you get 15% off your first order. Again, that's OG23 at homefieldapparel.com. It's not quite hoodie season yet. You cannot wait for hoodie season. It's almost hoodie. Are you hoodie and shorts today?
Yeah.
Dude, you know what we need to do? I probably need to order something from Home Field. Actually, we should probably use our own hoodies. I got to order them today. I got to order mine today. Because when we get that first hoodies and short season, we need Ethan to get us walking down Fayetteville Street in style. What do you think?
Looking back.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you think? We should do that.
Home Field, great stuff, man. 15% off. Use the code OG23. I'm telling you, their ECU and Carolina stuff is the best. Really great stuff. Go check it out. Download the app. Because once you download the app too, you get there's some extra discounts as well. So check them out. Great stuff. Again, we wouldn't steer you wrong on this.
Absolutely not. Also, thanks to Oak City Sports Cards for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. With Oak City Sports Cards, they buy, they sell, they trade, they grade. That's the most important part with Oak City. And we are getting into rookie card season.
We are.
We got Drake May, Caleb Williams. I'm sure that stuff is on down the line too, right?
You could still get those Bowman Chrome University cards, but it's NFL season, Ben. went over, got a retail pack, which if you're unfamiliar with this, Joe, you have a higher chance with a retail pack of getting an autograph card. So got a score, got myself a Bryce Young rookie card. It's just a basic rookie, but those are the kind of things you get, you squirrel away. And then when the time comes, you go get that thing graded. Then all of a sudden you're sitting on some value. So go check out Weston downtown Raleigh off of Glenwood Avenue, oakcitycards.com.
Also, thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. Check them out online at bugsbite.com. We are getting into the fall season, but it's still fall in North Carolina. It's still going to be hot. Mosquitoes can still be active. And with that heat, you got critters trying to get into the house, and that's where Pest Authority comes into play. Get, those little moisture areas that, little critters want to get into, ants, roaches, all that stuff. They can handle that as well.
Yeah, that 360 moisture barrier is a game changer under the house. Hayes Lancaster is the OG. He is our guy. Ain't no doubt about it. Check him out. Bugsbite.com.
So
he'll be up in Hartford. He'll be up at the game.
I know he will.
Got that RV lot. Got a great spot in the corner.
I feel like,
can't miss him.
He's usually
cannot miss him.
He usually is flying the flag that just says beer, if I'm not mistaken. So he's always good. He's always good for that. So again, we try to be transparent on this program.
Yeah.
And we're always trying to find ways to grow the audience. And for the most part, what we've been doing is organic. All right. Organic matter, if you will, because we haven't done any targeted ads. We haven't done any cross promotions on other podcasts yet. And I feel like we're getting to that point where we're going to do that for growth purposes. Right.
Yeah.
And some of the other things that we do are, stunts to get people to subscribe to round numbers. And we get to 4,000 subscribers. I went with the brass monkey.
That's right
behind me, in honor of the brass monkey.
Unforgettable.
Absolutely. I got to find that 10 wine and put it up there too as something else that I drank. But remember that thing when we got to 3,000? So we haven't decided what we're going to do for 5,000 subscribers. And I feel like you and I haven't really had a viral moment.
No.
Sure, we've had some of our guests like Bubba Cunningham or Don Waddell or Tom Dundon, Roy Cooper. Those interviews have done really well. Okay.
Like actual things we're good at.
Like, yes, having conversations with people. We're really, really good at that. But we just haven't had like the true full on.
No, we haven't had the, boom goes the dynamite type moment.
Right. We need to do what this guy happened, Vince D'Addario on a Notre Dame podcast / YouTube show called Irish Breakdown. And
God, I love all of the run they're getting from this. This is just proof, man. There's no such thing as bad pub.
CJ Zero caught like the actual grab from this from irishbreakdown.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the clip. If you're listening on podcast, I'll have to explain it. But here's what happens to Vince while recording the podcast.
They didn't actually throw a lot of RPOs. No, they ran some because Navy never forced them to pull it and throw it. So I think they only completed like 3 RPO throws the whole time. So
Vince, the co-host, has like this moment where his face just goes, whoop, and he gets up from his chair and he rushes out, and
he pelvis goes up as if As if, quite frankly, he shit himself.
It's entirely possible. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm actually going to scroll to the moment where I think he realized that's not the way I thought it was going to go. I mean, look at that thing. Look at that guy. He's in a position of, oh crap, I crapped myself. Okay. He literally crapped himself. So folks, that's blown coverage. That is blown coverage. And so
man, Brian is a pro in this spot too, by the way.
Oh, the host? Yeah, he sees what happens.
So I think they only completed like 3 RPO throws.
He gets up, he's off he goes.
So they didn't actually.
It's just like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So Vince comes back from the
now this got amplified because Mike Golick Jr., former Notre Dame player,
he points it out,
retweeted it and was like, hey, all right, we had a situation here.
All right. So
we've all been there too.
So Vince comes back and he explains what exactly happened.
To see. I was happy to see that. So, Vince, are you ready to get back with us? You all right, man? We had double trouble because you took off and I was muted, apparently. And there was like all the people at home are going like this, but I can't see any of them.
Well, I'll be honest. I got out of nowhere, two massive cramps in my quads. And I was like, I'm dying right now.
Man, I thought you were going upstairs to like lay down some fire and brimstone on the children.
I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh my goodness. I felt like I got sniped is what it felt like. So I was like, I need to stretch a little bit down here real quick. I can't even take myself out.
You didn't have time to take yourself out of the thing. You just left the whole show.
Anyway.
So that's the explanation from the co-host on what happened.
That's weak.
Are you buying it?
No, come on.
Both quads cramped up while I was sitting there recording a podcast. Now, as somebody who has back issues,
as somebody who cramps all of the time.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on. It's okay. This is great for you. You're the guy who shit himself during your podcast. Like, that's a thing. I just mentioned Boom Goes the Dynamite. I think that guy got a real job eventually. Yeah.
All right.
It's fine, man.
All right.
It's a big world.
A couple things. You say as somebody who cramps up. I
don't cramp in my quads.
In my old age, I've had two consistent.
My calves? Yes.
Yes. I've had two consistent issues as of late where my calves will just lock up and I got to walk it off or drink water. I know you can take magnesium supplements to help with those types of things.
I've started taking magnesium actually.
The worst is when my feet, like my actual foot,
toes,
cramp.
Outside toes, pinky toes.
I gotta walk that off. And sometimes you'll go back. It usually happens at night too, where you're stretching in bed or something like that, and all of a sudden your calf locks up, and you're shooting out of bed with a quickness to walk that thing off. Usually it's just one calf, not both. Quads though.
When in doubt, sometimes you got to go to the comments.
The glutes activated, my man. It wasn't the quads that were the problem. It was the glutes. Those bad boys activated. So I wish people get embarrassed. People get very queasy about poop. You shouldn't be.
My favorite part of all this, though, is the comments.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this one guy making memories. This is so good. Like he obviously worked in radio or works in radio. Not a guy in America who hasn't been in this predicament. You eat an avocado not from Mexico or try something your wife cooked. Next thing you know, your eyes are seeing brown and you hope it's not during Peloton workout.
Yeah.
When your feet are strapped in.
Dude, you know how many times I've been worried about going on a run and all of a sudden it's going to hit you?
He says you have to lead off the next show and give the full story and create new segments. The pregame meal, runs of the week.
Oh, that's a sponsored segment.
Bury the hatch shit and pardon the obtrusion.
Runs of the week.
That's really good.
How do you not have a service company sponsor that?
That's really
for runs of the week. All right.
You got to lean in, man.
You got to admit. Look, it's happened to me.
I had quad cramps.
Has it happened to you?
Quad cramps.
I can tell you. The most memorable instance was, I don't know. Maybe I had a bad avocado. I have no idea. I just remember it happened my junior year at Cardinal Gibbons.
Very specific.
Very specific. That dude clearly had a bad avocado one time.
Not from Mexico.
So this was a junior year Spanish class. Shout out to Miss Sharf, and I thought I could sneak one out.
Sharf. Yeah. Close
enough. And
very appropriate for that to happen then.
I did not. I did not. I crapped my pants. Literally crapped my pants. So you know how it is in high school, man. They don't want you getting up in the middle of class, and it's like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, sure, you're gonna go smoke a cigarette. That's what you're gonna go do. Like, no. So I get up and Miss Sharp's like, are you okay? I was like, I need to use the bathroom. And she's like looking at me skeptically. And I just go, I really need to go, indicating something bad either is going to happen or already did. So I get to the bathroom. Dude, it was waterworks. Not great. But at that point, I had soiled myself. So I took the underwear and left it in the trash at school. So the old Gibbons campus, when they tore that bad boy down, never forget, a little memorial. Here's the moment where Joe had to ditch his underwear in the trash bin. And of course it had gotten through my pants. So I immediately just went home. Like I just went home. I'm not going to the office. If I got to take the tardy or whatever, so be it. I just straight up went home. My mom's like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, Mom, I crapped my pants. She's like, oh no, honey. I'm like, yeah, it happened, Mom. It happened. Now, that's not the only time it's happened, but that's the most memorable instance of it happening.
I'm laughing at you telling this story because there was a time, not for me. I mean, it's obviously it happens to everyone, but
yeah,
we were in high school. We went to the Toys R Us for some reason.
Okay.
I think we were in Pompton. We're in the parking lot, and my friend Anthony Berkey, shout out to Berkey.
Yeah.
He comes out without his shirt on. Now, we're in high school, and Berkey was like one of those early lifters, right? So he was into his physique, and he was into being swole, as they say now. Not something we said then. We're like, Berkey, why are you? And Berkey drove a minivan, by the way. Mm-hmm. So we're like, why don't you have a shirt on? And he goes, they were out of toilet paper. And we're like, so you wiped with your shirt?
Hey, man.
And he was like, it was all that was available.
What else are you going to do?
So here he comes, walking out, middle of the day, Pompton, New Jersey, no shirt, to the minivan where we're waiting in the minivan in the summer. We're like, what the hell just happened there? Gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Life comes at you fast sometimes, man. If life is coming at you fast and you have to go to the bathroom, you know who has wonderful bathrooms that I've used? Breeze Through.
I'm like, where is this one going?
Head out to Breeze Through. Not only can you get gas, if you got to take care of your gas, they got great bathrooms. Beer cave as well. We're actually going to be out there next week. We've been texting with Adam over at Breeze Through. And next week, we are going to be doing, we're going to be part of their customer appreciation at the PNC Carter Finley Stadium, Edwards Mill Road area, Breeze Through. So this is Thursday, September 7th. They're going to lower gas prices to $1.76 a gallon from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. They're going to have a food truck, Oak City Grill. They're going to be there serving up the best gas station food you've ever had. And look, don't sleep on gas station food. It's some of the best stuff out there. And we're going to be doing a live show from the beer cave.
We're going to do it live, you said.
Yeah, I think we should do it live. We're going to be like a punk band, and we'll do it live. We'll do an EP session live from the beer cave, Ovies and Giglio. So we're going to try to do this live at 10 a.m. Thursday. We haven't done a live show yet. We've only done live to tape. So we're going to do live next week. Hey, bring your hoodies.
Are we going full Zach Brown with this? When Zach Brown started out, they had a rule. If somebody recognized them, they would play a song for them.
So do you want to?
So now, like, if people recognize us in the middle of a store, like, are we just going to start doing a podcast?
Well,
because people will recognize us.
It would be requests. So therefore, I would be like somebody coming up to me and say, "Hey, Joe, do the MLS is a Ponzi scheme song."
Yeah, all the hits.
Give me the hits. Or what's your greatest hit? Your greatest hit would be
Bracket Luck.
Bracket Luck is real, right?
Yeah.
So hey, Joe, I want to hear Bracket Luck is real. Maybe that's what we do.
Tell me again.
Also, thanks to the Butcher's Market. Locations across the triangle. Hey, man, tailgating season is here. We got football this weekend. We got the NFL starting up in just under 2 weeks. And you are going to need the meats, the chicken, the sides, the grilling material, the seasoning, the marinades. They have it all at Butcher's Market. Go check them out.
Jalapeno chicken. Had it this weekend. So good. So good.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. So you can go check out the Butcher's Market and tell them that we sent you. They appreciate it when you tell them, hey, yeah, I was listening on the podcast and I got to try your steak and cheese sandwich. It's Tuesday, which means Steve Wiseman, News and Observer, AP Top 25 voter, is hanging out with us in studio because throughout the season, we're going to be going into the ballot. Explain your ballot. Although there's no ballot to explain this week because you all don't do week 0.
No work to explain this week. No work to show because week 0 is an exhibition for us. We get to watch the games, but not vote on them. It is going to factor in.
But you factor it in, right?
The next time I vote will be next Monday night after the Duke Clemson game.
Okay, so
after Monday Night Football.
I guess my curiosity would be let's actually start with the ACC tangential team of Notre Dame with Sam Hartman, Wake Forest, former Wake Forest quarterback. Yeah. Now that we've seen Sam Hartman shockingly do Sam Hartman things with Notre Dame, How does that kind of shocked by
A
this
6-year quarterback.
Whoa.
What?
What did you get out of Notre Dame? How do you feel they move up or move down based on what you saw with a throttling of Navy? It is just Navy, but still.
It was. And I actually thought that might be a closer game based on what happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what Sam was going to look like outside of the slow mesh, right? Guess what? He's still good.
Yeah.
Weird.
It wasn't just
so
the
strange.
system. He's not a system quarterback.
Weird how that works out.
And Notre Dame has athletes for him to throw the ball to.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yes, it will impact, what I think of Notre Dame. They have a game this Saturday. I think it's an exhibition of sorts, one of those.
Yeah.
It's so rare. It might even be their first game against a 1AA opponent.
Yeah, they don't do that very often.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's all because of, the exception of going out to Dublin to play this game. You got to come back, and then they got NC State. I mean, you don't want to go up against NC State right after that, right?
No,
So-
I also think losing to Marshall at home, which NC State made the mistake of adding
never
Marshall
forget
too.
that.
So it's like, let's just
Never
let's just
forget
have
that.
a walkover, please.
So yes, I will probably, depending upon what other teams do, I will look at Notre Dame more favorably now than I did on my preseason ballot. Now that I have had a little eye test with them, and they played very well in that game. They game control. They had total 100% win on the game control front.
Every year there's a top 10 team preseason that doesn't even finish ranked. Have you identified which one you think that might be this year? Who's in danger?
It might be Florida State. Not to continue the theme of the offseason with bashing on the crybabies in Tallahassee,
Hey,
right?
man.
But that's one of the big games I'm gonna watch this weekend is Sunday night when they play LSU, right? They're coming right off the bat. Okay, we're Florida State, we're back. All this. If they lay an egg against LSU, think of what that does to their season, the projections, everything, the direction that it all goes down the toilet, right? They've got to play really well in that game.
But it won't matter because people will watch it, and that's all that Florida State cares about.
Yeah, they're not there to watch
They got the
Florida
numbers,
State.
right? Give us money. Give us money.
Oh, people
That's all we care
watch
about.
the game in a national spotlight showcase game. That's so weird. We should just pay Navy because I'm sure the ratings for week 0 were pretty good for Navy and Notre Dame.
All right, let's get past the potential shock of Duke beating Clemson at home. If it happens, do you factor in, we've talked about game control. As we talked about earlier on today's show, should you factor halftime walk control? Because remember, the visitors' locker room at Wallace Wade is one of the worst treks in all of history. It's just this really, walk up hills both ways in the snow just to play football, man. And Dabo's not happy about
It's
this.
across the desert. We're wandering through the desert, right?
Yeah. So do you factor in halftime walk control if Clemson loses or any team loses at Wallace Wade this year?
You've got to be tough, man. You got to be tough to come into Wallace Wade and battle those, those conditions.
I thought that stopped being a thing. I mean, I've been here long enough. I mean, the locker room's at least better. I remember what that locker room used to look like.
Yes.
So at least it's upgraded.
And thanks to UNC's spray paint scenario, it got renovated a little bit about 10 years ago unexpectedly.
Shout out to Bubba. Help foot that.
That's right. That's right. So also Pat Narduzzi has a big problem with it too. And they used to cut across the practice field.
Yeah.
And then Duke put up a little rope around it. So no more cutting, more cutting corners.
That's like stepping on a logo inside a locker room.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You got to put the stanchion up. All jokes aside, I do feel, look, Carolina, South Carolina, that's been discussed ad nauseum. Yes, the Florida State LSU game has been something that has implications for the ACC, but I also feel that Clemson Duke is going to be a little bit of a Rorschach test in what you see as the result. If Clemson throttles Duke, it's going to be hey, Clemson's back, baby, because this is a good Duke team at home. But on the flip side of that, I feel like we're going to be too easy to dismiss what we saw out of Duke's season last year because of the schedule and the record they had with it.
Exactly right.
So it's a bit of a Rorschach test to me.
It is. That's right. It depends upon what the person brings into the argument and sees. And
now, if it's close, it'll also go in the opposite direction where, nobody's going to want to give Duke any credit. It's going to be, Clemson's back here struggling. They're not an elite team. That's how it's going to be viewed.
Yeah,
right?
nobody will think, as Dabo said yesterday, correctly, Duke has 19 starters back from a 9-win team. Now, again, we're talking about who they played last year, who they're going to play this year, but those facts are true.
Yeah.
If they have that experience back. So, if it's close, again, people are going to watch the game. It's going to be the only game going on that night. That's going to really help Duke, and we'll see. We'll see if it helps Duke. If it's 42-3, it won't help Duke.
You jealous you're not voting? Want to get back in the game?
No, I'm happy for Steve.
Well, yeah.
He cares. puts the work in.
You do too. Although your AP top 25 would be affected by the spread. You should do a spread top 25.
Yes.
Could be done.
A spread top 25. Here's my AP.
Timmy Chang,
Giglio's,
number 1. Hawaii,
right.
number 1.
You know what? I love when we workshop segments in the middle of a show. And I feel like next week you should come out with at least a top 5 teams that are you can trust with the spread.
You got it.
You all right?
Like I saw earlier mentioning Iowa, they're a 25-point favorite over Utah State. They can score 25 points to cover
all season.
Yeah.
Right. Is that an
So
all
that's what we're
season
going to look
total?
at. See, that's what we're going to look at right there.
All right, Steve. Appreciate it, man. We'll actually talk to you next week with a new ballot.
We will have a lot to break down next
Week
for
1
sure.
ballot. I'm very excited about that. Big thanks to Steve Wiseman for hanging out with us, AP Top 25 voter. College football talk means it's brought to you by Wings Over. Wings Over Raleigh, not too far from where we are here on Hillsborough Street. Wings Over Chapel Hill, right there on Franklin Street. And Wings Over Greenville. Have you hit the Wings Over Greenville yet? Has James?
James has Charles Boulevard there. Listen, we give you food recommendations. Take them to the bank. Take this one. This is up there with the steak and cheese and the pizza. Get the wings, get the sweet chili, wingsover.com. Order them online or stop in on Hillsborough Street there in Raleigh. Check out Ryan Malley's spot, okay? Sweet chili wings. They got tenders. They do, so Ryan is a Massachusetts guy. He's a Boston guy, Boston area guy, went to UMass. They do their tender sandwiches like people do lobster rolls. Ooh. So the rolls are those split bread, like very intrigued by those. But highest recommendation right now for the sweet chili wings. Go check them out. Football season equals wings. U equals baller. Wings Over equals OG.
Needs equals wings. You equal wing eater. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's answer some Hey Joe questions brought to you by Oakwood Pizza Box. Check them out online at oakwoodpizzabox.com. And Wednesday through Thursday, Sunday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Just make sure you got your hours correct. So again, that's oakwoodpizzabox.com. Rather than going to Twitter, let's go ahead and get into the YouTube comment section, which has been a little bit active.
You're breaking me of my old newspaper habits. Ignore the comments.
No.
Embrace.
Not in this media age. From Mitchell, R.I.P. Harrelson. I honestly like the bathroom. Since it's a very bathroom heavy show today. Had the very Hogwarts Chamber of Secrets vibe. Also, no one was in there, so you could have a bowel movement in peace. I mean, he's right.
He's got a point.
He's got a point. He really does. So I'm not going to knock it. The rest of the comments were very much like John's here. Guys, you just don't get what's happening regarding ACC realignment. Catch up. FSU and Clemson are leaving the ACC. Won't be in the conference for the 25 season. The ACC is just trying to stay as relevant as they can to avoid being Pac-12 into oblivion post FSU Clemson. There may be others leaving as well. Check out Brett McMurphy this morning for a partial explanation, which I did. Brett was, talking about numbers, stuff that we've talked about, trying to make the conference look okay in whatever's coming next. And again, if that was, and I'll just go back to what I said yesterday. If that's how you feel, well, then you're 5 years too late. You're 5 years too late. Just not proactive enough. All right. So again, speaking of ACC expansion, we'll go back into the YouTube comment section. And I found this one particularly amusing from user-KN7RY8IZ6X. This is somebody who wants to stay anonymous, and it's edited. I realize you guys hosting this show are all caps stupid, but if this expansion dies, so does the ACC. With expansion, the ACC lives, all caps. I want to make that ACC live. They need Saudi money if they actually want to survive. No matter what happens next, the ACC lives because of this expansion. What is embarrassing is how stupid these hosts are.
We found Jack Swarbrick's YouTube
Should I hit
user ID.
Should I hit that with a like or a dislike?
Yeah, we're stupid. Give us a like. Boop. Yeah, brilliant.
A like.
Hey, man, appreciate you taking the time to tell us we're stupid.
Engagement.
And he listened, though, too.
At least
he did. Because he used our words, which is, it is embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
And it is stupid.
And I'm going to disagree. ACC expansion means the conference is going to die. Straight up. It's going to wrap it up for today's show. We will see you all tomorrow.